over and over again, you're a fool. We have some individuals in our community, our kids, that see the same trap that you saw, see the same trap that I saw. In fact, I'm almost willing to bet every individual on that panel saw the traps, the same ones. Every single individual up there. I don't care if you're a judge, an attorney, a district attorney, you saw this, because we all grew up in the same type of communities.
The ratio makes a difference too. You see,
speak on it.
Everybody sees the trap.
But y'all ain't giving the audience, time to say nothing.
Everybody.
These people came because they want to say something too. Let us be heard, man. Let these people be heard too. And I got something to say right now.
Floyd.
I got something to say right now.
Your voice there, sir.
You came up. He came up. He came up. He came up. He came up. How I came up.
You came up.
How do we make our come up contagious?
Amen. Bless you. And I just want y'all to know he just pulled rank. Yeah, let's get to the, let's get.
I want that question dealt with.
Okay,
How do we make our contagious come up? Because all of us came up in different ways.
Sneeze on somebody.
I love that.
Sneeze on somebody. Sneeze your blessing on somebody.
Okay.
But we're too lazy to get out here and sneeze on somebody.
You better preach.
Get out of your comfort and go sneeze on a bunch of people.
That's right.
Pass this virus along.
That's right. Let's go to Venetia.
Okay, as a youth outreach worker, it has been very frustrating to listen to a whole lot of personal concerns and everything about the justice system and pointing fingers at the law. But what about, why are we not acknowledging the fact that we have a self-responsibility as a parent? And as a parent who's watching other parents fail, you know, we can say it takes a village to raise a child, and the teachers, the education system has failed our child, and the justice system fails our child. But what about the parents who are failing their own children, and we sit back and watch it and say, well, it's not my problem, and it ain't my child, and you too scared to go up and talk to somebody and tell them a better way to do it? Because me as a parent, I wasn't a parent until the age of 20, but I had people there to guide me and help me along the way. So when are we going to step up and help these parents who actually come from a generation of parents who weren't trained and taught how to be parents? How do we help that? How do we address that issue in our community? Because we're talking about systems here, but what about the system of parents who are failing their own children, and we're watching it and blaming everyone else?
Well, let's get somebody to answer that.
Hey, that's a good point, but some people just don't want to listen. You can't tell grown people nothing.
That's another excuse. Let's start erasing excuses.
You can tell them, but they're not going to. It's their decision to listen.
Oh, let me go to Caswell, Brother Caswell. He hadn't had a chance to speak yet.
Well, let me just say to that, Venetia, and you hit it right on, and I heard Councilman when he said it too about the teachers and working with, I know about 500 or so women in our program over the last 4 years that's on welfare and food stamp, and seeing that these parents who are not educated themselves cannot educate their children. So, and as I put it one time before to a senator, is that it's like our children are houses, and those teachers who are getting those high paying salaries are contractors, and when they work on that house, send it home to someone that don't have home ownership training or are not trained to live in the house. Tell them biology is no make a difference. Just rip that child bathroom out. So what has to happen is we got to go back as a community, as a people, and train up those parents who are missing this, because it's a lot of them missing being able to educate their child. So therefore, how can they teach something they haven't been taught themselves? So I think that we have to, as a community, as those who know better, again, what he said, sneeze on, we got to be able to come back and give back to our community, because I come out of the projects myself, and I had someone to lead me and show me the right way. So now I live in a better community. I do things like what Pastor said became contagious, but it's got to be that we got to be willing to understand that it's not just the teacher's fault. It goes back to a whole system. This man said something earlier as how the trade happened back in slavery, then so forth. It's something where some people are lacking in Norma, you said something about the entitlements. Whether it's Democratic Party or whatever, to continue to give food stamps and welfare to people without some type of education or some type of tune to that, it's something got to change on that. And it may not be popular in our community, but we cannot continue to give away government cheese without some type of training to go with how you go fishing after this cheese go out.
Okay, do you have a question or a comment? A question?
Yes.
Okay, let me get your question, sir.
Okay. I'd just like to know, to me, I think our society has failed us, because I believe that, you know, to have real justice, you have to have equality, and we haven't achieved that as a group of people. You know, on the level of education and as far as incarceration, even in the Constitution of the United States, I think under the 13th Amendment, once you go into prison, you lose all your rights. You become a slave. Am I right, Judge? Is it under the 13th? I can't say nothing. Okay, I'm sorry. But anyway, if you read the Constitution, that's one of the things that happen. When you go to prison, you lose all your rights. You become like a slave in prison. So our problem is that the environment, the society that we live in, to me, hasn't been geared to equality. We're number one in everything. We're number one in incarceration. We're number one in diseases that kill people. We're number one in all the negative things. So in our society, our upward mobility is kind of geared down, because we do have a ceiling. There are people that are achieving great things. There are people that are overcoming great obstacles, but we still have a problem in this country with equality. Until we look at the peoples as people, we still gonna be headed in the same direction.
Okay.
Because as we look at, they even in prison now, the prison system is on Wall Street.
Right.
I mean, you can buy stock for prisons on Wall Street now. So they're building, you know, help
We
me out
appreciate
with
your comment. Now, if Deacon Williams stands up, that means your time is up. Brother Williams. Oh, we got another timekeeper in there? Okay. Well, Deacon Williams is the official timekeeper. He's the official timekeeper, so we're on Deacon Williams' time. And I abide by that. So we'll go Brother Williams, then we'll go to the young lady that has a question back here.
I don't know if there she is. What our program does, we empower our young people in communities and churches as well. And to kind of answer your question, we're partnering with the middle school in Atlanta, Georgia. And the program is significant because we're having the youth lead the program, but the parents must be involved 100%. Now, it is very difficult. It is demanding. Things that we do is repetitive. I won't let young people text me. They can't email me. They can only pick the phone up unless they don't have access to it, because the communication has been lost. My parents have a certain rules. They have certain rules and regulations they must go by. And it's got to be ongoing, continuously, nonstop. It's going to be hard, I will admit. For years, we have constantly been the same way over and over again. We've had young people that live right next door to crack houses that graduated from college and now working in the police department. So what we're doing is really being proactive in our communities, but we're not allowing the things that we're hearing to be the determining factor of everything.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Williams. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think it's important to question the kind of narrative that celebrates individuals who overcome hardship as if anybody could just put their mind to it, they could do it. It really reminds me of kind of the Oprah philosophy. I think we have to be realistic. We live in an economic system that is based upon massive exploitation and that has racism as a linchpin to keep people of color, and particularly in this city, African Americans, at the bottom. There is no accident to that. If we think about schools, my mother was a school teacher. She taught at Melrose High School for 35 years. I'm going to tell you that that school did not have the resources that the predominantly white school I went to had. And I watched it be decimated over the years. Right now, they're trying to privatize education. They're trying to privatize everything. Every institution in our society is about creating profit. They don't want folks to be educated on the ground, because people would start to ask for a different kind of society. Prisons, they get more money if they get more people in them. It's the fastest growing industry in the country, so let's not be mistaken in that the majority of black and brown people who are in prison have not committed major violent crimes and are sentenced much more strongly than their white counterparts, and there's plenty of evidence on that. And so when we talk about if the young person would just make a different decision here or there, If 40% unemployment amongst young black men in this city, if every one of those people decided they were going to really go for it to succeed, where the hell would the jobs be? They're not there. And so finally, what I want to say, I have 2 suggestions on what we could do. I think that one is that we have to look at, just start in this city. Where have the cuts gone to public services, parks, community centers, libraries, all the things that actually would help young people and other folks? And tens and hundreds of millions of dollars being given away to corporations every year. We need to get together. If 30 people went down to city council and said, you can't close my park, you can't shut the public swimming pools for an extra day this week. No, you do have this money. We could start making a difference. So, and I think that we really need to understand, we have to rebuild the grassroots and organize and fight for all these public services. And when someone says entitlement, say, hell yeah, you know, we live in a society where people's basic needs should be met, and they are not being met, and it's damn hard to make these moral choices when you don't have your basic needs met.
That's my friend right there. Thank you for that. But I have a question before, no, because, hold on. We'll get the microphone over, but I do have a question, because Brother Tojuan, all of these elderly people have been having all these comments and say in this conversation, but we hadn't had an opportunity to hear from somebody that's actually on the ground with the young people, so I want to hear from my nephew, Tojuan Reed.
Okay, just in response to the lady that just spoke, a lot of the things that as young people that we do is that we are highly influenced by the things that we see that go around us. You know, we are infatuated when we see people that have nice things and we want those things. I remember just a few years ago, honestly, my friend had a few video games and I really wanted them or whatever, and honestly, I thought about stealing them. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm just holy and I wasn't gonna do it. I thought about it, but then I realized that perhaps I don't have everything that I want, but I made the decision not to take it. I had every opportunity to do it, but I didn't. And it's just like anything else. The fact is that students, any child, or even any adult, has to have one thing, and that's what keeps you on the right path, and that's a thing called willpower. You cannot blame someone else for actually making, you can blame someone for making a decision to go out and do something, because the fact is that since most of us here do believe in God, the fact is that he gives us free will. We have the decision to do something if we want to or not. The fact that we do it is because we actually have the want and the desire to do it. If I say that I want to go sell drugs because a person I see him making all this money, it is my decision to do it. At the same time, I can say this is my decision not to do it. So the fact is that so many people lack willpower that actually allows them to be able to make a conscious decision. And you can't necessarily say that it must start with this whole village idea, because the fact is that your parent has to stress that importance to you, that as a child, you have to be able to make decisions for yourself. You have a brain, you have a mind, you have a way of your own. And if people don't want to be around you or deal with you because of that, that's no fault of their own. I have many people that I went to school with that didn't like me because I'm an extremely punctual, intelligent young man, and a lot of people purposely didn't hang around me because they feared the fact that I was more intelligent than them. And I cannot be faulted because I take more time to understand things. I take more time to study and research. The fact is that I made a decision not to follow what was around me, and I decided that those things were going to only keep me down, and now I have a chance to go to school free because of my will and my determination to get away from those things that were going on around me. So just to everybody up here, it's about willpower. If you want to make yourself a victim, you do that because it is your choice. You have the choice not to follow something, no matter if it is around you.
All right, okay. Brother Williams, Mike Williams.
How you doing? I'm Mike Williams, president of the Memphis Police Association. I keyed in on something that the judge said. She hasn't said a whole lot since she's been up there, since she's nonpartisan. But one of the things she said was that she is still her, regardless of where she came from. And a lot of us have been around the world and back again. We in here are the ones that we care. We want to make a difference. We want to change things. But then I heard the brother say, you got to step out of your comfort zone. See, because I think that the churches have failed us. Hello? Oh, by the way, I'm a minister as well. But I have no problem with saying that the churches have failed us because the community used to evolve around the church, and the church used to lead the charge. But see, what the government did was they started giving grants.
better preach. Oh, but you are.
You got all of these big edifices in our neighborhoods. I had to go to a church one time because a lady wanted help to pay her bill. They called the police and wanted to have the police escort her off the property. And I said, excuse me, ma'am, are you a member of this church? She said, yeah. I said, do you tithe? She said, yeah. I said, well, she owns this church. This is her property. This is a civil matter. But see, it has gotten to that. We don't want to go outside the walls of the church. We can have conventions. We can do all kinds of things, and that's nice. But see, when are you going to step out there and make yourself liable for what's going on? When are you going to risk your job? When are you going to risk your status? When are you going to say that, hey, no matter what happens? See, I had to have a talk with my wife in my current position. I said, baby, let me tell you something. I'm finna step out here. What do you think? She said, you know what? You're a man of integrity. And whatever happens, I come from Scutterfield, North Memphis. University of Kentucky, Chaminade University in Hawaii, University of Maryland, 22 years in the Army. So I know what it's like to have, but I also know what it's like to not have. But a man without integrity to me. Now, I'm going to say this real quick. We have another issue here.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap it up, Brother Mike.
Okay, one of the other things I heard somebody say is that those that make it, we have individuals that are getting in key positions, but they forget where they come from.
Watch out now.
They forget where they come from because they buy into the money. They buy into the privatization. They buy into selling their race or selling economically deprived individuals down the tube because they want to continue to maintain that status. They want to continue to increase and move on. When is enough enough? See, that's where we have problems, and definitely in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mike. Joyce, I think you had a comment. Joyce Parkinson.
I'm extremely proud of him because I am a single parent now, and for so many years he saw so much of what we are talking about in this forum, so I'm appreciative of him having the opportunity to sit among you and being the youngest of the group to do so. I wanted to just really quickly address a couple of things that I did here, and I think it's kind of piggyback real quick about having accountability and responsibility. That was my choice. I am the oldest of 7 kids. And my parents fought all the time. My father was a heroin user. They drank, they fight. I was one that called the police all the time. So I'm saying all this really quick to bring this point about. There's 7 of us. We had a choice to make when we were removed from our home, and that's how we ended up south. I'm a Chicago native. 3 of us decided that it was extremely important to move ahead, get our education, get a college degree, that kind of thing, and establish ourselves. Actually 4. Because my brother went back to school. The other 3 still kind of finding their way, trying to figure it out or whatever. But those were their choices. They're still in Arkansas to this day. And they complain about their issues. Blythe doesn't even have public transportation. And they complain about the jobs and blah, blah, blah. Well, you have a choice to do something different because you see some examples in front of you. So when the young lady was speaking about making excuses and what are we going to do as a community, I do that as an individual. And so what I'm going to ask of everyone in this room, for the ones that do know me, they know that I'm a domestic violence advocate, but I'm a domestic violence survivor. And so when people talk about how I can't do this, I can't do that, while it's true that everybody is not going to have the same mindset to do what it is that they can do, I am one who chose to do differently. And so what I've done with my time and my talents is try to help other people come out of that. Everybody's not going to do it the same way. They're not going to do it at the same pace. But over time, it can happen for those who will it to happen. But for me personally, when I didn't have a car, I walked where I needed to go. I lived at State Line and Riverdale. It takes 9.2 miles to walk from there to Winchester to catch the only bus that would come my direction. But I did that, and when I was doing it, I was putting on programs for domestic violence victims. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. But it was a need because I saw a need for the community at large to be more aware about what was going on with them. I didn't have a job, so I created a job. And I think it's important for people to understand that if you don't have those resources, then you need to reach out and help somebody else so that they can obtain those resources. I see you standing, brother. So lastly, just to wrap up, my question and what I'm asking is everyone that's on this panel, everyone in this room, I am not a nonprofit, I am an individual, but I work tirelessly in this community to try to bring about some awareness and some change and some real tangible results. I ask for your phone numbers, your email addresses, whatever, so that we can work together, because we have to be accountable and responsible for ourselves and admit, I have failed my child. I have failed my community. How can I make this right?
Thank you, Joyce. You got a question, Becky? No, we got one. He's been waiting for it.
Hello. Oh, yeah. I had a question and a comment. I grew up out here in the Frayser area. I grew up in the Ridgecrest Apartments back when it was $1 million dope track, not a trap house. It was $1 million track. I went to Grandview. I went to Tresvant. I left, went to the military. And my question is, on one hand, now that we have the state coming in, taking over these schools, how are we in the community positioning ourselves to take advantage of being involved in getting programs implemented where we can teach these young people accountability and responsibility? And then on the other hand, in my experience working in corrections out here at the SCC, you know, how are people gonna go in and get locked up and change when there's nothing for them in place to do? You know, like you said, like my first base that I was on, it was a federal correctional center on the base, but there were no fences. But here at the correctional facility, not a lot of people know that is a minimum security prison. No one should be there doing more than 1 year. You got people at the Pentaform doing life. You got people at the Pentaform doing 30 years.
Do you have a question for the panelists?
Yeah, the first part.
Okay. Yes. And let me say this real quick. Being that we're getting squeezed down time, we're going to keep our comments down to 1 minute and try to get as direct of a question for the panelists as we can. And I got you next, brother. Okay.
And here's something real quick, and I think Representative Parkinson loves me enough to allow me to do this. I'm going to put him on notice because it's something that I dropped on him when he initially got elected. Here's a strategy that I recommend that we implement in the city of Memphis to address many of these concerns. I think we need a Memphis Black Caucus. And I think that caucus ought to consist of those people who have attained a mild level of privilege, which means you have advanced and have some type of upward mobility. And I'm talking about police officers and social servants. I'm talking about teachers and administrators. I'm talking about pastors and preachers, because I can sit here and critique the inadequacy of the church community all day long, but I won't do that. But we need to get to the point to where we can identify some young people and train them up so that they understand how the system that we advanced in works. And that way we can condition them to implement some of the strategies and things that we think ought to be beneficial in the future going forward. Memphis Black Caucus, stay on this brother about this.
Norma Lester, then.
You know, we can sit here and we can complain about our systems forever, but it's what are we going to do about it? You know, we have to get out and get involved and make things happen. I'm on the election commission, and I tell you, it disappoints me seriously because people in Memphis, Tennessee need to be jumping up and down, screaming, stomping, doing everything about what happened during our elections. And nobody is saying or doing anything. Nobody even paid any attention until it's happened to Collierville and the suburban areas. Now the state and everybody else want to come in. They just got a taste of what's been happening to the inner city all the time. We have to, like the young lady said, it's time for us, number one, to hold our representative, our elected officials accountable. We need to be down in City Hall. We need to be at the County Commission. We need to be in mass numbers wherever we need to be, making our issues and concern known, because that's the only way that we're going to get change and get either electing them to get in or voting to get them out. Because just sitting here talking is not going to make any difference. We've got to have a grassroots